Hey there. I'm sitting here with my cup of tea and I've finally found a moment to speak with you, so I'm pretty excited. I thought I'd talk today about being accountable for our day, and I particularly want to talk about being accountable for our day today because I've sat down today and contemplated, deliberated about how do we know when we are on the right path? How do we know when we're being effective? And how do we know when we're good people? When there is a barrage of different values and different cultures and different approaches. How do we know? How do you know when you're being a good person? And it's more complex than it sounds, because you might say, well, I just do the right thing. I just be fair. I just be kind. Is it really that simple? Is it really that simple of just doing the kind thing or doing the right thing? Or is it inherently more complex? I was thinking today about what the right thing to do is. And I was having a talk with a very good friend, and we looked at the complexity of her life. And from the outside, the right thing, or the good thing, I say with my hands held up in quotes, seems so simple from the outside. But when you start to dig beneath the surface and you look at the different situations and the different people involved and the characters and the commitments, sometimes life just isn't that simple. I actually do believe that we need to work towards simplicity. And I think that when life is complex, sometimes it's about letting things go. But sometimes it isn't. Sometimes life is just complex. A couple of weeks ago, maybe it was 4 weeks ago, I designed a schedule for my YouTube channel. I wanted to do this for several reasons. I really like connecting with you. I love this time when I have a cup of tea and we have a chat. I just love it. And I'm a time-oriented person. I'm professional. And I love to live to a schedule. And I took some time to think about this schedule and how it worked for me and what sort of topics I'd cover. And then in the last couple of weeks, my daughter turned her ankle. I had my son fairly sick, my other son with an infection. My daughter had school issues. I had to stay up late with one son with his a post he had to do, which ate significantly into my time, which of course I love to do, but it still ate into my time. Then I had a friend with significant issues, which were important to address because she's been very good to me. And then I had I had a significant internet problem where I occasionally go through stages where I get a lot of contact, some pleasing, some not so pleasing, and that sometimes has its effect. It's amazing, when I'm doing this right now, I feel like it's just you and I feel that you're sitting there with your cup of tea or coffee, and I'm sitting here with my cup of tea, and it's just you and I. That's it, just you and I, and we're having this lovely chat. But the reality is it's not that. It's now, when I started my journey on YouTube and online. It was years ago, 5 years ago, and gradually I've had more and more input online. Now there are thousands of people that listen to me, but I feel it's just you and I. I truly feel it's just you and I, but it's not. So that comes with its gamut of challenges as well. And with all that, I thought today, how do you know when you're doing the right thing? Well, you don't know. all you can do is account for moment by moment, hour by hour. And a nice way of doing so is at the end of the day, reflecting at the end of each day. And you know I love to journal. You know that's what I love to do. And I love keeping a journal. The good thing about a journal is that you can read back over it and it gives you some perspective. So looking back over a day, looking back over a complete day, gives you the ability to say to yourself, did I do okay today? What am I grateful for today? What are my goals for today? What could I do differently and what could I learn from? One of the limitations we have in Western living is that we often get caught up, tangled up in goals because goals are ahead of time. So we actually never achieve them because all we have is now. Now, I'm a big believer in goals, But what we enjoy about goals is the journey, the pathway, the anticipation. So the reward is actually in the step by step along the journey rather than the achievement of goals. Our constant desire to better ourselves or develop ourselves or bring something to the world is what matters. That is why we set goals, to step by step develop ourselves. But we do not compromise our sense of self for the end, for the gold at the end of the rainbow. We need to enjoy looking at the rainbow, knowing we may never achieve it. Now, I want to be clear here. I'm not saying that we won't achieve our goals. I'm very goal-oriented. I'm saying we have to sit in the delicious taste of eating the apple rather than worrying about finishing that apple. So set your goals, but every day experience the delicious taste of the journey. So today, what can you be grateful for today? Today, what values do you hold? Do you demonstrate your values today? If you had your time again, what would you do differently? Identify what you do differently and then let it go because the time has passed. What has added to your life today? What has perhaps detracted from your life? Notice it, identify it, and let it go. As I become more popular online, I need to identify it's a decision I've made. I clearly made that decision because I wanted to speak with you. Excuse my husky voice. I've been sick together with one of my sons in the last 10 days. I've made a decision in the next book that I'm writing. I'm currently writing the next book, and yes, the first book is coming out. By the way, on the first book, I'm up to the 18th format, and today it's all done. And it required 18 formats. 18 formats. I have been through the journey of 18 formats of my 80,000 word book, and that's my journey. The next book, I talk about stress management and worrying well, which is a term coined by Rossman, who is a well-known philosopher in stress management. I'm reading his books at the moment, which I'm really enjoying. So in my journey in writing the second book, I've made a decision to meditate every single day for 6 months. I'm now up to let me have a look at my watch. I'm up to my 18th day of meditation. Sometimes I've meditated for 2 hours, which my mother has told me is just plain weird. And sometimes I meditate for 20 minutes. I try very hard to meditate for an hour a day. In the last 3 weeks, I've reduced my weight training because it's in the space that I'm at right now. I need to create space at the moment to meditate for me, and that's what I'm doing. As I've meditated, I've kept notes in my journal of the effect it's had on my life, and it's been quite profound, so I talk about that in the next book. You are welcome to join me on this journey of meditation. I'm going to talk about it whenever I can. I've really realised, or am realising, that as much as I want to schedule my uploads, and I really do, and it makes me feel good to schedule them, life rips that away from me. So I'm going to continue to try to upload as promised and basically see what happens. I am meditating every day, and I am currently vegetarian, pretty close to vegan. I'm working through that process. I want to make sure that it's authentic, and I want to make sure that I've made the decision myself without any pressure, that it's authentic to who I am in my journey. So that's where I am with that at the moment. I've loved meat all my life. Right now, I don't think the planet will allow us, and I think that every living energy has a soul, and we need to honour that soul. That's where I sit today. Coming back to our topic of being accountable for our day. What I mean about being accountable for our day is we need to be we need to live up to our definition of being a good person. When we look at the word good, it means nothing. It's without definition. It just means being positive in your own interpretation. But what does that mean? What does it mean to be a good person for you? Because it's about you being authentic to that. And sometimes we might start patterns that aren't true to ourselves. And one day slips past and another, until suddenly 6 weeks have passed and we think to ourselves, I didn't mean this pattern to start. This is not truly who I am. Time just slipped past. So if you look at yourself at the end of each day and you look down upon a journal, or perhaps you want to just say out loud who you are, you can be more accountable. So I ask you, what are your values today? Did you live your values today? Were you authentic to your values today? Were you authentic to your goals? Did you demonstrate your values? Were you a true example of your values? Did you do good stuff today? Did you do stuff that benefited others? Were you true to what came out of your mouth today? Were you true to the words that you decided to enunciate, to articulate? Were you true to each moment today? Did you follow patterns that are constructive to your authentic self? Did you repeat any destructive patterns that you haven't let go? Why haven't you let them go? Don't let a day go by. Today I spoke to a friend whose marriage isn't going very well. And I said to her, don't be like me. I love you very much. Don't be like me. Don't allow time to slip by. We have one life, and that life is measured in moments by moments, seconds by seconds, hours by hours, day by days. Look at your day. Live authentically for that day. Be able to reflect upon that day and really own it. Really own it. I'm not saying that we need to sit up and say, hey, we're great people, because we're not. We need to live in humility. It's not about being great. That's not what it's about. It's about being able to own your stuff. Can you own your stuff? I don't know that I can. And I think if I said to you, I can own my stuff, you need to say, Lauren, you're on the wrong track. It's about embracing our stuff, taking responsibility for it. The stuff we could have done differently, own it, and then let it go. Reflect upon it, meditate in silence, keep going back to silence, because that's where the answers lie, in silence, not in the mayhem. And while I say that, I've learned again and again I can't escape the mayhem. I'd like to never shout. I'd like to always be calm. I'd like to have the contemplated, quiet answers instead of sometimes the reactive answers, but being a mum of 4, sometimes there's reactivity. Reflect upon it and let it go. Thank you so much for taking time to listen to me with your cup of tea and my cup of tea. I love these moments, and for me it's always going to feel like it's you and I. That's what it's about. Me, myself, I, authentically, and you, engagement, care, listening, compassionate curiosity. Be well, my friend. Thank you for giving me your time today. Your time is valuable, and I'm grateful.